Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Ethan.
And I'm Rick.
And this is Roster United, a board game podcast. Here today, let's talk about the newest Stonemaier board game that has just been released called Stamp Swap, a game designed by Paul Solomon and the artwork by Connor Gillette. This game, we're going to be talking to you about it. You're a stamp collector. And of course, as always, we're going to have you just run us through a little overview of how the game is played.
Yeah, so Stamp Swap is a game for 20 to 60 minutes, 1 to 5 players, and ages 14 up on the recommendation. Basically, in Stamp Swap, what you're doing is you're stamp collectors, kind of like old-timey stamp collectors, and you're at kind of a series of shows that you're buying stamps in theory, and you're laying them out in your book, and then you're going to shows, and whoever has the best stamp collection wins. And you get that by getting a variety of points for doing different things. And how you play in Stamp Swap is a pretty straightforward game. You're going to play 3 rounds and 3 phases in each round. And then there's a final show at the end of the game, which is a way to get points. And the way these rounds work out is basically there's going to be a pool of stamps that's created. You draw some cards that tell you what stamps. Some of these stamps are face up. You can see them. They're all different sizes. They might be there's like squares, so they might be like 2x2 or 2x3 or 3x3, and there's just different sizes of stamps. And these stamps have different things on the front like you would expect, and they're beautiful hand-illustrated stamps that Connor Gillette did. Each stamp is unique, and on a stamp, you're going to find what you would expect. Some are like flowers, some are like tractors and animals. Basically, there's 5 different themes to the stamps, and there's 5 different colors to the stamps. On your turn, you're simply going to pick one of these things. Not only is there stamps out there, but you have the ability to have certain cards that'll give you bonus points, either exhibitors, or they give you special powers. And as also the first player tile will be in that. So on your turn, you're going to pick one thing. And you're just going to go around the table. Everybody picks one thing. They can pick a card with a power. They can pick a stamp. They can pick that first player token. And that's it. You're going to do that 6 times. And at the end, you're going to have a pool of 6 items. After everybody has their 6 items, you have the opportunity to pretty much reserve any of the items you picked. You get to reserve 1 item of the 6 that you get to keep no matter what. There are a couple like rare stamps which are really cool and shiny. You can't reserve those, but other than that, you pretty much reserve anything you want. After that, of your remaining 5 items, you're going to divide them into 2 piles that all the other players can see. And again, you've got different things. You got some of these stamps that are face down that only you know. Some of them are face up. Some are your cards, might be the first player token, whatever it is. You're going to separate these into 2 piles. And then starting with one of the players, depending who the first player is, you're going to pick a pile from another player. Then at the end, when everybody's had their piles picked, the pile that was not picked from you gets left over, and now you have this pile of stamps and cards that you're now going to place on basically a 12 by 12 grid of squares on your play mat. And this is where the points start coming into it. These stamps have a variety of things on them. Like I said, there's themes, there's different values to them, numbers that are going to get you points. And the way you do that is there's a layer of what's called exhibitors that basically at the beginning of the game, everybody has one. So you might get a point for every stamp that has a vehicle on it for the rest of the game. So every time you go to count your stamps, if there's a vehicle on one, you're going to get a point and go up the track. Whoever's first player gets a couple of points. And then there's a center board that everybody shares. And this is where you track the rounds, but this is all where you track a certain number of goals that you can do. And there's 4 goals at the beginning of the game, and you can basically choose a goal at the end of each of the 3 rounds. You can't do a goal twice, but those goals will give you more points depending on what's on your board at that point. So, it might be the goal is pick one of the colors, and for every stamp of that color, you're going to get 3 points. It might be some of the stamps have canceled stamps on it, so they have no values, they just have lines. You might get 2 points for every cancel stamp, or maybe it's every cancel stamp that's on the edge of your player mat. Depending on what that is, you're going to get points. And then everybody's doing that at the same time, and that's the end of a round. You're going to go through. There's a couple of other ways to get some bonus points. You can choose these infinity stamps. They're just a 1x1 small square. Whoever has the most of those at the end of the game will get more points. You don't count the values on your stamps until the last final show. But you're going to basically be doing that 3 rounds, and then the final show where you kind of get to count some of your stuff that you've been collecting over time. You're working towards an overarching goal that is counted just once in that final show. And that's it. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. But it probably seems like a lot, but really that core mechanic is you're getting a pool of stamps and cards and powers, and you're getting to keep one and then separate the rest of it into 2 piles, and you're going to pick one. And that's the game.
Thank you very much for that. And yeah, it does seem maybe a little bit, but honestly, when you play a round or 2, you start getting used to it, And then what's funny is that once you get used to nailing down how it is, you're already almost halfway done through the game. The game goes by really, really quick, honestly. We've played several games with just 3 players, and at least for me, what I've noticed, even with newer players, we found out that, sure, it would take them a round to kind of get the hang of it, maybe 2, but even so, the game still lasted 30, 40 minutes. I mean, it was really relatively short for what the game is.
Yeah, it definitely keeps to that 60-minute time frame at the most, I think. And we played, of course, the first game we were all new. The second game, you and I had already played it. We had a third player that was new. Mm-hmm. And still, I think we kept it into that timeline. What's nice about it is probably getting a little bit of the gameplay that I like, is there is a lot of variability. You do not go through all the stamps in every game. Those goals that you're going for after each round, those change. That's a deck of those that change game to game. The powers, you definitely don't get through all of those game to game. So there's definitely a lot of variety going in here. But what's cool about it is I just love that mechanic of I split, you choose. So I've got to come up with a way to either get you to pick, tempt you to pick the pile of stamps that I want you to take, or have it set up in a way that I don't care which pile I get. Mm-hmm. I'm happy with both. And that's really, I just love that piece of the game. That's where a lot of the strategy comes in a little bit. But it's so cool. It's very simple, but definitely hard to match. Like, there's a lot of depth of strategy there and figuring things out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you mentioned as well, every game is really different because the goals change and stuff. So it's not like you can really be good at the game every single time you play it because there'll be different goals. But obviously, yes, with experienced, you can still have a little bit maybe of an advantage just because you could try to get something. But at the same time, it's like, well, maybe I have what I want, but then you have to divide that, right? So you have to play almost like a 3-dimensional chess of, I want to keep this, let the other person keep that, and then when they try to split it, maybe it's worth getting it, maybe it's not, and there's a lot of decision-making to go with it. It's not just simply a little Tetris puzzle game with some goals on the side. There is a lot of thinking in what you want to get, what you want others to get, right? Because that's what you're basically going to get is what other people have out there. And how are they going to split it up? How are they going to divide it? And you have to make just the best decision you can. And sometimes you end up with a lot of things, or sometimes you end up with your own things, depending if what other people chose. So there is a lot of strategy in how you decide, and I really enjoyed that piece of it. I really did.
Yeah, there's definitely layers to it, and the only thing maybe I would disagree a little bit with what you said is, can you do well every time? The player that can adapt to what is going to give you points in a game is the one who's going to really truly be the best person that scores. And I think we saw that. I think the first game, I think I won with like 105. I think you had 103 points. And then the second game, you won on a tiebreaker. We both had 142. Yep. I mean, we had already adapted, because what I like about this is there's easy strategies. There's certain stamps that don't really play into the bonuses very much. They don't play into the goals, but they give you a ton of points at the end of the game. Those rare stamps. But if you can play the layered game, because you got to be thinking, okay, I've got certain cards that allow me to get certain points, and if I get a stamp in the first round, I get to count that every single round. That's going to give me 4 points or 3 points for each round. But I also have the goals in the middle. And the first time I do one, I'm not going to get a ton of points. So I'm shooting maybe for a couple other goals. But like you said, you don't know what stamps you're always going to get. Or at least the ones that are available in each pool. So you've got to adapt to that. And then on top of all this, you got the long goals at the end of the game that you're shooting for.
Yeah.
So I think there's a variety of strategy in there that I like. And I don't want new players to think like it's this overwhelming game. I really kind of see it like a gateway game. Yeah. But it's one of those, what makes a good gateway game to me is a game that newer players can have fun and be competitive. But gamers and hobby gamers can get deep into that strategy and can still find a lot to like about it, and it adapts. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of the components?
Well, I thought the components are very nice. Stonemaier does obviously a fantastic job with their components, boards, and even the cover of the box is very nice. It has that nice scratchy sound when you scratch the board. Don't do that, but it has a nice sound to it. I think the cards honestly are very well put. Obviously this is the same company that does Wingspan, and obviously Wingspan has some great quality cards. This company truly has, in my opinion, probably the best qualities you can find in games, other than maybe a couple of other companies. I forgot their names, but really it's Stonemaier. For a quality game, they do such a well done job. And obviously, since this is a game that has lots of cardboard pieces, right, lots of stamps, the cardboard is really well. It's not so bendy. It's not loose. It's good. It's thick. It does really well. The board, your player board, is your notebook. You can see everything. You can tell where everything is at, where it has to be. For those who might have, could be colorblind, for instance, on the depiction of the, what are those called?
The themes.
The themes and the colors. Thank you very much. There's a little card that shows you, and you can actually see the outside of the picture of the stamp. You'll see maybe triangles, lines, squares, and those depict different colors. And of course, you can actually see the image as well there to depict the different type of theme. And what about the color, though? It's not just the square, or not the theme, because sometimes it can be a little confusing, but you can still easily depict how it is by how the stamp is made. So, for example, vehicles, you'll have a certain vehicle in the middle of the stamp, but you'll have lots of lines going through it, easily depicting that it's a vehicle. So, I think it does really well for those who, maybe are colorblind or maybe can't. It's kind of hard to see that. I think it does a good job with it. Honestly, I just think, you know where everything goes. The quality of it is nice. The player boards are very thin, but, they're not, bendy or anything like that. It's really just really nice quality.
Yeah, I think I want to temper some there a little bit, just to be clear myself. So, what Stonemaier, I think, really has done recently, in my opinion, is he makes games, I agree with you, that are high quality for the price you get. I don't want our listeners to be confused. This is not like getting a high quality game with all these miniatures and metal coins, which I'm sure some of this stuff, as he likes to do, because if people want to bling out their game, he's willing to sell some stuff to bling out their game with. Mm-hmm. But it's a $40 game, but you get a lot for that $40. These stamps were each illustrated individually. There are no repeats in all these stamps. And it just really adds to the authenticity of the game. When I get a stamp, I know I'm the only one in the game with that stamp, and it makes it rare. And that part is really, really, really good. Mm-hmm. I thought that some of the graphic design on the cards is fine. There's nothing special there. They're serviceable. They work. The boards are fine. I would have, if I could have picked on it a little bit, there'd probably be one thing I would say is I would have liked all the stamps to be a little bigger. and the board to be a little bigger. And the reason I said that is you're right. They were very conscious about marking, because, one of the things you had to understand is color in this game. And they were very conscious about adding borders so you knew which ones belong together. But on some of the smaller stamps, because again, there's different size stamps in this game, some of the smaller stamps, that's not easy to see. Certain themes have indicators on them. I believe like the vehicles have horizontal lines inside the border, so you know it's a vehicle, because there's other themes, like a spaceship theme. You could think a spaceship is a vehicle, but if it doesn't have those lines, it doesn't count. On some of the smaller stamps, that's not exactly obvious to see. Now, we're not colorblind, so it does stand out pretty good. But even some of those smaller stamps, some of the pictures, I'm struggling a couple times. Just on a couple of them, it took me a little bit to say, okay, is that a space theme? Or is that, a vehicle? And just kind of understand that a little bit. But again, that's being nitpicky. The stamps are gorgeous. And like I said, every one is unique. And I just think it really adds a lot to the game. So for $40, you're not going to find a better quality game than this. I mean, I want to preface it with that. I just want to be clear. You're not getting like a $200 game with all these like hand, made stamps that are, got feet, they're cardboard chits, but they are high quality illustrations. All the stuff works perfectly. And I can't believe what you get in this game for $40.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like we've talked about, a review that comes into mind just for those, who are listeners to the show was the Cities review. And this game is very different from Cities. There are some similarities. I won't go into it deep, but the thing with Cities that I didn't like compared to what I like about Stamp Swap, is what we've mentioned already too, was the replayability of the game. And again in Cities, you went through everything. Not kinda. You did go through every single thing in that game.
The replayability came from the city card.
Exactly,
itself,
but that's really it though. That's really it. And and it is a big change for that game, but kind of not really.
And the order things come out, right? It's a stack of cards. You do go through it all. But the order in Cities, it changes that game. Each game is never the same. Because you might have different things.
But you do go through
this,
everything.
You do not get through all the stamps in each game.
In Stamp Swap, yes. You don't go through anything.
To preface it, at least in a 3-player game, we are not getting through all the stamps each game.
Yes,
I don't know in a
absolutely.
5-player game. We've never tried it. If you have to use all the stamps.
Yeah, you might get close to it. Yeah, probably.
But again, there's so many stamps,
and not just that, the achievements as well. There's a lot more achievements out on there. There's 4 achievements, and every achievement has 6 options to choose or whatever. Every single color, so
every
even if
type of goal has 6 different ones.
Exactly. Oh well, not 4. Excuse me, 5. Right, with the final score.
Yeah.
There's 6 of those. So just with the base game, you have so much replayability. You're not going through everything, and if you're playing with a 5-player, you'll come close, but I don't think you'll play with every single one of them in one game.
No.
Not at all. And again, too, you also have the specialist cards and the exhibitor cards as well that give you extra bonuses and extra abilities to do in the game and stuff. And also these cards. What are these cards called again? I forgot about that.
The cards that basically what those are called are the event cards, and that tells you what stamps come out. There's always one special rule that comes with each round as well.
Exactly.
All the combinations of this make each game unique.
It really does, and
you got to do it unique. Even the way some of these goals come out make you place the stamps on your board differently. The first time we played, I had the perfect Tetris, everything fit, and my stamps fit, and that was the best way to get points. But in this last game we played, it wasn't like that. The way that I needed to place my stamps to get the most points resulted in a lot of holes on my board, a lot of squares that weren't filled. So it's really cool that way. And that's why I say you got to pivot. You got to pivot. So
you do.
Let me ask you this.
I really did like
What's
that.
your fun factor on this? What do you think on a fun factor? How do you rate this for fun? Or was it fun for you?
I think it's really fun. I really do. I probably
you really loved it.
I really did like it.
You don't have to give it a number. I was just saying, how do you rate it?
It's really high. It's really high. It's very, very fun. I just love, again, the replayability and just... I've played a lot of games that feel like this, and feel where you're kind of filling up a grid. There's games like World Wonders or Planet Unknown, and I'm a huge fan on both of those games. I really do enjoy games where you put stuff on your grid in a way where you're trying to fill the most or making a puzzle or whatever to get the most points. I love that. I really do. And I think what Stamp Swap does really well is that there's a lot of different goals. I like that the stamps individually, right, are different, and it's not just what they score or they don't, but it's also the theme, it's also the color of it, and how also that can be beneficial to how you place it down here. I like that, and not a lot of games do this as well, but I like that it gives you specialist cards, again, lets you do different abilities during the rounds. I like that it gives you more ways to score points. And I like that it's not like everybody can get one or two. This last game, I didn't have any. I didn't have a specialist or an exhibitor, right? But you had like one as specialist or something like that, and one exhibitor card. And even so, we still tied. So you feel like it's very fun. There's a lot of great ways to score a lot of points, and you really don't feel like you're so left far behind from anybody, even if they have a great run or whatever. We played a couple of games lately, and I would have a great head start. I'd be like 20 points ahead of everybody, but it's not like I wasn't actually doing bad the next two rounds of the game. I was actually doing really well, but everybody else still got the chance to build up their stuff. They still got the chance to build up their points and to get that next objective card, because although there are 4 objectives out there that you can choose from each round, there's only 3 rounds in the game, right? So there's going to be one where you can't choose. So, like you said about pivoting, it's very important. And I just love that really anybody can get so much points, and it's really tight. Even if it doesn't feel like it at the beginning or whatever, it does down the wire. It really does.
Yeah, you can definitely play for the end game in this. There's that last goal that can really you build up towards and can have a lot of points come your way. You can get the rare stamps,
yes,
and you get to count the value on those. And where a lot of stamps are worth 1, 2, or 3, or even negative, those can be worth 10 or 12 points each. So you can really come back at the end of this game. I think both times I've been
there where you won the first one.
I was planning more for the end game piece and not getting as much along the way, and then just killing it end game.
What would you obviously again this being a grid game where you're kind of drafting pieces onto your board and placing them in a style like a Tetris style or a puzzly thing. What would you not compare, but how would you kind of rate this among some of the other games that like where you put pieces on your grid and trying to fill a puzzle, complete goals and things like that? Like, what stands out, I guess, to you more, if there is something about Stamp Swap than the others?
What I like about it is, I guess, it could have been very simple to just have it be draft stamps, draft cards, and then fill out your board. What I like about this one is they added that wrinkle of the I cut you choose.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So I'm drafting, but as I'm drafting, I can't just draft all the stamps that I want. I might want to leave a couple of stamps for you to draft.
Yep.
So that when you divide up your pile, I'm going to get those. And I'm drafting stamps that maybe I think you want, or I think nobody wants, or maybe they're face down. And I'm trying to balance these things out. So maybe there's a chance I can still get most of what I want from my pile, but maybe target a couple things in your pile and hope. And then you just got the unknowns, because there's always certain stamps that are face down, and only the person who drafts them knows what they are when it's time to choose. I like that added piece.
Really,
it's not just drafting and playing it on your board, which I think is kind of like Planet Unknown. And Planet Unknown's different. It's got things on the board as you're placing your tiles and do things. It's a different game. And they all have their wrinkle. And World Wonders does too. But I do love this that I cut you choose mechanic. I love what goes into that. Is how am I going to divide this up so that no matter what, I win.
Absolutely.
Right? No matter what, I'm getting a pile that I like. And if I make one pile way too good, I know someone's going to take it, and I'm going to end up with what's left over. So
you can really bait people.
You could try to bait people. You could try hard.
To get bad, get a lot, but it could be a lot of bad, negative stamps.
Or things they don't want.
Or things they don't really need, So it's very important to see also what other people have put already on their tickets, because once you place one on one objective, you can't use that objective again. So
and that's where the experience comes in, and I think makes it more fun. Is if you really like this game and you play it, you're starting to develop those abilities. The ability not only to adapt to the stamps that come out and how they fit into the goals for that game, but the ability to start seeing other players' boards as you're playing. And understanding what they want, what they don't. Can you bait them to take a pile of stamps you don't want to give you a big pile of stamps you do? I think that's just really cool, and I really enjoy this game. It's got a lot of depth. There's ways to get better at it. But I think it plays quick. And you can get through it in an hour.
I'm really enjoying it.
I would say I could see it lending to a little bit of AP, a little bit of analysis paralysis. Because, again, if you're trying to make that perfect split and you're trying to calculate, okay, if I get a vehicle here, but I can put it there, and if I get this car, it could maybe lead to a little bit of analysis paralysis, but I don't think the game lends itself to that. It's set up to be quick. You do have a lot of things you're doing at the same time to cut down on that time. So when you're figuring out those goals and how many points and all that, that can be all done simultaneously as well. So there can be a little bit of AP maybe brought on by it, but I think it's really mitigated in the game.
Well, there you go. One last thing before we get into our ratings, and just really quickly, this is obviously being a Stonemaier game. Again, like mentioned before, Stonemaier made Wingspan, but has also made one of the most popular board games ever, Scythe. It's also made Viticulture, and it's also made, lately, Apiary as well. And
Apiary. And Expeditions,
Apiary,
which is based off of Scythe.
And Expeditions is a sequel to Scythe as well. Some big hits, right? I mean, this is a company with big expectations, right? When they release a game, you hope it's going to be a great game. You really hope. It's like Nintendo, right? When they come out with a Mario game, you expect it to be a fantastic Mario game. Same thing here, but obviously with it being a board game. So for you, and I guess this can kind of also lend us into the rating of it as well, do you think that Stonemaier has made another hit? I know it's relatively new right now, but do you think this could potentially be a big hit for him?
I think it could be a huge hit. Will it be Wingspan hit? I don't know, but it could be up there to me. It lends itself for more stamps. It could definitely grow. I think it's hits that mark of Wingspan where it's not too heavy to learn, but a lot of strategy and understanding and depth. It probably doesn't quite have quite as much content as Wingspan did, even in that first box. But I just love the puzzle here and the fun factor of this game. I just enjoy it, and I know it's like rated on 7.0 on BGG, and that's probably because it is a simpler game. But doesn't have that many ratings. This is a brand new game, just came out. I think it's 51 ratings or something like that. I would rate it above that. For what it is, like I've always said, I rate games for what they are and the fun factor and do they fit a niche for me. And for a what I would consider a gateway game about a theme that everybody knows, and then the components and the play factor and the replayability, I would go above that for sure. I think he's got another hit on his hands. I think this could just be. I've only played it twice, and I want to play it more. But I want to see what else they could do. I want to see what other stamps could they bring in. What are others? What are some other mechanics that could be brought? Like combinations of those stamps and how they work and how you draft them. I think it could be amazing. It's one of his top games for me. I mean, it's. Scythe and Wingspan are always going to be up there. I love Apiary, but this one to me, it's up there. And another thing I like, and I just want to make a quick comment, I know we're getting long, I like how Stonemeyer's try to really focus on games being fun. And some people might like that sometimes in the sense of maybe they like some you can hate draft or you can deny people things. And there's a little bit of that here. But what I like, for just an example, you have certain stamps at the end of the game. Who has the most of these little stamps, you get 10 points. The players that tie for the top, instead of giving them both second place, everybody just gets first place. Like everybody just gets this thing. You don't have to deny it. If there's a tie for something, you don't have to deny it. On those goals in the middle, it's not the first person to do it. Everybody gets a chance at it.
Yeah.
Now, you can only do 3 of the 4, and you got to pick the order, but everybody gets a chance at it. And sometimes I like that, especially in a game like this where you're not denying anybody anything. People can get what they need. They can get the best score they can. There's player interaction for sure because you're drafting, you're taking people's piles. I just really enjoyed it. It's a great game.
Yeah, I really enjoy it as well. And speaking about, Stonemaier, they put a lot of their games, and that's why they're very popular. They're in the mainstream. These are games you can find in Walmart and Target. These are games you can buy in those stores. I've seen Wingspan in Target, and I believe one time I saw Scythe,
Maybe Scythe at one point. Wingspans is kind of mainstream. Not that some of his others couldn't be.
Yeah.
But definitely Scythe, or definitely Wingspan, for sure.
Yeah, and hobby games, sometimes it can be hard to be on mainstream, sort of be one of those common board games you see at stores. But Stonemaier has 2 right now games that are kind of mainstream that people just know, even if they're not in the hobby or not. And I think eventually Stamp Swap could hit that. I really do think it could be a great hit for them. It's very simple. Replayability is great. Honestly, right now on the table, we have it set up. We're ready to go to play it one more time. I mean, it's just super fun, and I want there to be an expansion. I want more. I want more decisions. I want more drafting. I want more stuff. And Stonemaier, what they always do really well with their games as well is that without us knowing, they're already setting on an expansion for the future. I don't know if you noticed, but you're on your player board, it's only half of your notebook, and they cut off the other page of your notebook.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even pick that up.
Maybe.
Oh, that's true.
They could do an expansion where your player board expands a whole nother sheet, and it could be something totally different. Maybe it's I don't even know. I don't even know. They have some crazy stuff, but right now it's just super fun, and I just can't wait for more. I love it. I really do. I enjoy my experience with it. I enjoyed placing the tickets where you want it to be. I like that. And it can be a little frustrating, but even if you're have a huge lead, you can still, you can still lose it. You can still win it. It's unpredictable, because you just don't know. You can have a great 2-3 rounds, the whole game you're playing great, and you can still end up losing. Frustrated, yes, but also kind of adding that suspense of and pressure, really, sometimes, where you're just like, okay, I have to do really well for this turn, and things like that. And I like, again, that you could pick with your tickets. That really kind of, you're not letting the game decide for you, you're deciding on how you want to score that turn. I love it all. I really do. For the high or low, you said it was higher, right? From a 7.1 currently rated on Board Game Geek. I say it's also higher as well. I give this game a 9 out of 10. I love it. I really, really love it. I can't wait for more. Stonemaier has another success here on their hands. And again, like you said as well, really quickly, is that this game is just a great gateway for new players, learning how to draft, and also learning I don't know what the mechanic is called, but also choosing what points you want, the goals. There you go. Oh man, I forgot that word. Wow. Choosing what goals you want to do. There's a lot of other games as well that have that sort of theme there in the game, and this game just teaches really well. It also teaches about placing your people on a Tetris grid sort of thing as well, and there's a lot of other great games out there, again, like we mentioned before, World Wonders and Planet Unknown, that were 2 big hits here in the hobby as well. And I really do think Stamp Swap is it's a fantastic game. I really enjoy it. It is very simple, but again, and we talked about this too with Forges of Ravenshire last week, that although it might seem simple or kind of straightforward, there is a lot of underneath depth with how the game is played. So Stamp Swap does it really well. Stonemaier has another great success here, and we personally just enjoyed the game. Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to today's episode here. Rating Stamp Swap a 9 out of 10, higher, obviously, than the Board Game Geek rating so far. It's September, so it's going to be more fun, more reviews, more segments, more episodes coming your way. And hopefully we can spend some time together wherever you're at, in your car, at home, and, listening to our reviews, our opinions on games that might be right for you. Yeah, sure, football's back, which is always very exciting.
Always very exciting.
There's also a lot of great board games as well, digitally, that have come out, have been released lately. And, what's up with digital board games? Are they really something good? We don't know. So, but we will talk about that. In a future episode, there we'll have a segment talking about digital board games and of course a bunch of other ideas out there that we're very excited for. And well, ladies and gentlemen,
give us a like.
Give us a like. Please subscribe.
Put some stars on the review on wherever you listen to podcasts.
Absolutely.
Give us a like. If you got to post a question, we're happy to respond.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know. Let us know if you're out there, if you're enjoying the podcast. We really enjoy making the content. We do this for fun. We hope it's informative to folks. We really, really enjoy doing it.
We do. So again, just like you said, subscribe to the podcast. Spotify, obviously, is sort of the main one that we go to. But there's also Apple Podcasts,
wherever you
Google
listen
Cast,
to podcasts,
wherever. Literally, we are everywhere where you want to listen to podcasts. So please give us a like, give us those stars, give us a rating, and of course, leave the notifications on. That's right. That's the word right there. Leave the notifications on so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Anyway, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Ethan.
And I'm Rick.
And we'll see you all on the next one.
Adios.